So what is this?
This says you can't erase us, Nancy. Well, then you shouldn't try to erase women. That's what I have to say for any man that wants to be in a woman's restroom, bathroom, dressing room, locker room. Absolutely not.
Women should be protected. Women must feel safe. Women must have rights. Women should have autonomy over their bodies. You never hear about a trans man having an unfair advantage in male sport. Why is that? How come we never hear about that?
I just have a question. How many more anecdotes do you need of women and young girls being assaulted due to these laws and regulations for you to actually care about it? I've heard many stories.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. Sorry about my voice for today. I'm nursing a little throat cold here, so I'm not trying to do the sexy voice or anything. I should be back to normal in a couple of days. Piers Morgan had a great episode on yesterday. I'll link the full episode down in the description down below. This is just going to be a small excerpt of it, talking about what's been going on with MAce, how she triggered the whole left by saying that, and again, this is 2024, 5 minutes ago, 2 years ago, this would have been just normal, that men should not be using the same restrooms as women. Obviously, where are the feminists when this stuff is happening? Nowhere to be found. Absolute crickets protecting men being able to use women's washroom.
Elected to Congress. Let's take a look at the Nancy Mace explanation as to why she's doing this.
This effort in response to Congresswoman McBride's coming to Congress?
Yes, and absolutely, and then some. I'm not going to stand for a man, if someone with a penis is in the women's locker room, that's not okay. And I'm a victim of abuse myself. I'm a rape survivor. I have PTSD from the abuse I've suffered at the hands of a man. And I know how vulnerable women and girls are in private spaces. So I'm absolutely 100% going to stand in the way of any man who wants to be in a women's restroom, in our locker rooms, in our changing rooms. I will be there fighting you every step of the way.
Now, Emma, Sarah McBride replied by saying this is a blatant attempt from far right-wing extremists to distract from the fact they have no real solutions to what Americans are facing. To which I say, well, I'm not even vaguely right, and I think it's wrong that biological men who've become trans women should be in women's spaces.
You're not vaguely right, Piers?
No, I'm
actually.
listened
to a segment
I would say I'm in
where
the center.
you agreed with Glenn Beck,
no,
one
I would
of the
say that, yeah,
right commentators
exactly,
in the country,
no,
repeatedly.
But rather
apparently
like,
something's happening
hang on,
the left
I haven't finished
Bill
yet.
Maher and someone you
yet.
saw on TikTok.
I haven't finished yet. Let me ask you a question.
Being hysterical. Go ahead.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do not identify, and I know you believe a lot in self-identity. I do not identify as conservative
I don't know what that means.
I'm like Bill Maher. I'm just completely bemused by the woke left and how nuts you've all got, right? And I think this election...
Bill Maher's an old, rich libertarian who's bitter at the world.
Yet.
I mean...
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Right? Here's my question. If I, as a man who identifies as a liberal, if I can see why it's so wrong for biological men who have now become trans women to be in women's spaces, to be in women's sport, to be everywhere in women's lives where they historically were not biological men supposed to be, why are you not as exercised by this as a woman? I don't get it.
Why?
You're all about women's rights.
First of all, absolutely. I host a sports podcast. I care deeply about sports, and I believe that anybody that identifies as a woman should be able to participate in the sport as long as it abides by the particular bylines or guidelines,
You know it's wrong. You know it's unfair.
Said sports league. But actually, we're talking here about Nancy Mace, who loves a camera in her face and loves attention wherever she can get it. I find it pretty disgusting that she is basically implying that this trans lawmaker, just by being in her presence in the bathroom, may rape her. I do choose to speak up for women's rights. I believe that I do so on my program, The Majority Report, regularly. And I'm disgusted that Nancy Mace has decided essentially to support Donald Trump wholeheartedly, who has been found liable of sexual abuse in court, and multiple of his cabinet appointments, picks, including Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz, have been credibly accused of sexual assault themselves. So apparently it's triggering for her because someone's genitalia may be slightly different in the stall next to her.
When you say credibly accused,
but it doesn't matter to her that Trump has been found liable of sexual assault in court. Piers,
Time out.
Piers, has Trump been found liable of sexual assault in court with
Trump was
Carroll?
found guilty in a civil action. He denied it, as you know.
Found
and in case of
exactly.
and in the case of Gates and Pete Hesketh,
so the preponderance of evidence went in her direction.
You can't just keep talking.
And she's been
all right,
and
keep talking.
he has been accused by dozens of women. There you go.
Are you finished?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
When we have a debate, the customary for the host leads it, and you respond to questions. Okay. If I may be so bold. The point is that Hesketh and Gates have categorically denied any wrongdoing, and none has been proven against them. In Trump's case, it was a civil action, as you know, not a criminal action. The criminal case against him was shuffling paperwork over an alleged one-night stand with a porn star. So it's not quite how you categorized it. Deborah Lee, let me bring you in here.
Has this trans lawmaker been accused of rape? Has this trans lawmaker
No, but actually, if you are a congresswoman who survives sexual assault, you should be entitled to feel safe in the restroom.
So the presence of a trans woman in the bathroom. Oh gosh, you know, here in New York, there are a lot of multi-gender bathrooms, and I've gone to the bathroom next to a man. Oh my goodness, it was so fearful. What was I going to do? I would actually be quite fearful if
I found you lurking next to me in a men's restroom. I'd feel fearful. Deborah Lee. Let me bring you in here. I just think
that is a ridiculous accusation, Piers.
I didn't make an accusation. It was a statement of fact. I would feel fearful.
You would feel uncomfortable? Why would you feel uncomfortable?
If you were lurking around me in a men's urinal, damn right I'd feel uncomfortable.
Lurking? Who's lurking?
Well, what else would you be doing there?
Is this lawmaker lurking?
What else would you be doing there?
Going to the restroom.
I don't want you going to my restroom. Stick in your own restroom.
Just stop it here for a quick second. Show you a clip of Nancy Mace absolutely ending this reporter's career when he asked her about this topic, and then I'm going to show you a little clip here of AOC having a complete meltdown over men not being able to do their business in women's facilities. Absolutely insane. Let's get it.
About banning women from using.
100% yes.
My question to you is.
And it doesn't go far enough. I'll be filing more bills.
You have said that it was created in response to Congresswoman-elect McBride.
100%. And
but should legislation be created targeted at one specific person?
It doesn't mention anyone in the legislation, but
you've said it was aimed at her.
No, I have said it's a result of this. I'm not going to allow biological men into women's private spaces. I will stand in the brink and stand in the way of anyone on the radical left who thinks that it's okay for a penis to be in a women's locker room or a bathroom or a changing room. Hell no. I'm not going to stand for it. And the Speaker said it would be in the House rules package. If it's not, I'll be ready with a motion, a privileged motion to force a vote on this. This is not okay. I'm a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. And I'm not going to allow any man in any female private spaces.
Now, Speaker.
End of story. And by the way, I'm getting death threats from men pretending to be women. Why is it that these crazy people, the insanity, the radical left, are willing to kill women over a man's right to be in a women's restroom?
Speaker Johnson has said he wants to treat every new member with the words dignity and respect. Forcing this congressperson to go into a male restroom, is that dignity and respect?
Forcing women to share private spaces with men is not dignity and not respect. And I'm absolutely going to stand in the way of anyone who thinks it's okay for a man to be in our locker room, in our changing rooms, in our dressing rooms, in women's bathrooms. And in fact, if you agree with that, you're crazy, because that's not okay. It's not okay. Congresswoman,
Thank you, Congressman. We're going to peel away from this conversation, Kira. So a little.
The radical left is calling me an extremist for being a feminist, fighting to protect the rights of women and girls. If being a feminist makes me an extremist or a bigot or a monster, I am totally here for it, because I'm going to fight like hell for every woman and every little girl across this country to protect you and keep you safe.
Hey guys, I am at the airport making my way back home to the Low Country in South Carolina. I just spoke at an event with a couple hundred people. Some trans lunatic tried to rush the stage and attack me. And he is just making the case for me that we don't want penises in women's spaces. F off. And I just had a woman come up to me and get in my face about it, and I told her to F right off. I'm not going to tolerate it, and I'm going to fight harder and bigger than ever before. I will be the giant you can't take out, and you can't bully me into submission.
What Nancy Mace and what Speaker Johnson are doing are endangering all women and girls. Because if you ask them, what is your plan on how to enforce this, they won't come up with an answer. And what it inevitably results in are women and girls who are primed for assault because people are going to want to check their private parts in suspecting who is trans and who is cis and who's doing what. And so the idea that Nancy Mace wants little girls and women to drop trow in front of who? An investigator? Who would that be? In order, because she wants to suspect and point fingers at who she thinks is trans, is disgusting. It is disgusting. And frankly, all it does is allow these Republicans to go around and bully any woman who isn't wearing a skirt because they think she might not look woman enough. People have a right to express themselves, to dress how they want, and to be who they are. And if a woman doesn't look woman enough to a Republican, they want to be able to inspect her genitals to use a bathroom. It's disgusting. And everybody, no matter how you feel on this issue, should reject it completely. What are they doing? They're doing this so that Nancy Mace can make a buck and send a text and fundraise off an email. They're not doing this to protect people. They're endangering women. They're endangering girls of all kinds. And everybody should reject it. It's gross. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, the grift should be over. Nobody's saying anything bad about the gay community or the trans community. It's just if you're a biological man, you shouldn't be in the washroom with biological women. Again, where are the feminists when you need them? Let's get back to Piers Morgan.
For my safety, never mind yours.
Okay, would a man be lurking? Would a biological man, is he lurking next to you?
That's the whole point.
Why is there something inherently perverted about going to the bathroom? You right-wingers, and yes, I'm including you in this with this classical liberal BS, are so bad faith. It's incredible. You are linking sexual abuse and sexual assault to trans people inherently, and that is a bigoted statement.
I want trans people to have, I want them to have fairness and equality like the rest of us, just not where it erodes women's rights. But Deborah Lee, you've been listening to this patiently.
But separate but
right,
equal.
Emma,
Separate but equal.
We're four people
Piers?
on the panel.
I would like to respond to this.
Deborah, your response.
Hey.
As somebody who grew up as an athlete, I would have been terrified if there was a man in my sports, in my leagues, playing against me. My own brother, who's 2 years older than me, anytime we would play basketball against each other, you would knock me down. And you say that you speak up for women's rights, but have you heard about the case in Virginia where a man put on a skirt, even though he went with male pronouns, and went into the bathroom and sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl, and now the parents are suing the school because they tried covering it up. You want to protect women? We're not saying that every single trans person has violent tendencies, but it's opening this up that any single person, if there's no checks on this, any man can put on a skirt, say, I'm a woman, and go into the bathroom, and it's paving the way to make it easier for predators to attack women. And I don't know why you're so offended that women want to be able to use the bathroom without men in their presence. That is something that is totally normal and fair to ask.
I just find it amazing. Honestly, I find it amazing that on the left, if we talk about abortion, all hell breaks loose. Women should be protected. Women must feel safe. Women must have rights. Women should have autonomy over their bodies. And yet when it comes to sport, you're quite happy for biological males, or let's put it this way.
You know what?
Put it this way. Hang on. You've got to let me finish a question.
I think it's a little different.
You've got
than
to let me
women
finish a
bleeding out
question.
in parking lots because they can't get their health care.
Emma, you really are not familiar with how these things work.
No, Piers.
You have to let me ask a question.
Should Yao Ming have been banned from the NBA because he's too tall? I mean, we've got to make it be fair in competition.
I tell you what's not fair.
He towered over these
when
other
you have
players.
when you have a boxer in the Women's Olympics boxing winning a gold medal who has male chromosomes and who beat up one of his opponents.
Okay, based on a Russian,
beat up one of his opponents, her opponents, whatever you want to call this boxer.
That is what they determine.
Please stop talking when I'm talking. It's so boring for everyone watching. They can't hear us if you do that, right?
I mean, this is your whole shtick. I mean, you've been doing debates about the genocide in Gaza.
Am I going to have to mute you? Because honestly, everyone is sick of this now. Just please conduct yourself properly in a debate. Otherwise, we get nowhere. Right? Let me bring in Amala. You've been waiting patiently. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I mean, I just have a question. How many more anecdotes do you need of women and young girls being assaulted due to these laws and regulations for you to actually care about it? I've heard many stories. I'm in Los Angeles.
Until you give me a statistic.
In Los Angeles, we had a grown man here in Spa in Los Angeles. We had a grown man actually go into the women's locker room at a spa, expose themselves to all the women there, all of the young girls there. In Loudoun County, Virginia, you had a young girl who was raped in her school bathroom, a place where she is meant to feel safe, by a a trans-identifying student in the state of New Jersey. In their prison system, they allowed trans-identifying women to go ahead and move over to the women's facility. That ended up with 2 pregnant inmates. Be it consensual or non-consensual, it does not matter. These situations are 100% avoidable. And we are in no way characterizing all trans women as being predatory in nature by any means. It is to say that you are opening a door that needs to remain closed. And our comfort does matter. Our safety does matter.
And by the way, Amala, by the way, hang on, Emma, I'll come back to you. Emma, I'll come back to you. But also fairness matters too. So the United Nations 2 weeks ago had a report that said just under 900 medals have been won by trans athletes in women's sport, thus depriving biological actual women from winning medals because they are literally not as strong, not as powerful, do not have the endurance of the trans women athletes because they have male physiology. How can that be right?
Absolutely.
900 medals.
So Piers.
Yes. Explain
about,
to me.
First of all,
why don't you care?
First of all, why don't I care about that? One is the fact that this should be determined by those specific bodies. It's not at the top of my priority list.
Some are male, some are female.
That's
why we separate them in the Olympics.
That women are bleeding out in parking lots. That trans youth are committing suicide at extremely high rates because of this exact kind of rhetoric, where you otherize the gender identity of their choice.
What you mean, standing up for women's rights?
Available to all of these kids. If trans care was available to these kids, they would develop in the exact same way where none of this would even matter. And so back to what was being said before about these assaults on other people. Back to what was being said before about assaults on these people. I think they should be prosecuted, and definitely I'm completely against the idea that we should let someone slide just based on their identity if they assault somebody, which is why I'm sure everybody on this panel that is obsessed with this issue has been talking repeatedly over and over again about the rape in male prisons by male prisoners repeatedly against their same biological gender.
That's
in fact,
wrong too.
It happens.
Yes, it is.
Right. So how many?
But you know what you don't. You know what you never hear, Emma. You know what you never hear. You never hear. You never hear.
Not about this
Emma. You never hear about a trans man having an unfair advantage in male sport. Why is that? How come we never hear about that?
There are trans men because
you know why? You know why? Because they don't win.
That'll be it for this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. Absolute insanity that we're still talking about this years later. How is this still a thing? Hopefully, in the next 4 years, we'll cure this problem. Shout out to Piers Morgan. You know, for a guy who's a liberal, and he might just be doing this for ratings or for views or whatever, but nonetheless, he's having the conversations. This was a good episode. Suggest you watch the whole thing. I'll link it down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button for your boy. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.